Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Eric. Today I'm going to talk about the 1987 film The Running Man, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. The film was directed by Paul Michael Glaser, based on a Stephen King novel, or a Richard Bachman novel, as it was known at the time when King was writing under that pseudonym. This was, um, well, I should talk about first. This movie is quite different than the Stephen King book. And just to give a little bit of the premise, we're in a dystopian future, massive class inequality, and people have turned to mass entertainment. In this case, a game show where in the movie, convicts are forced to go through like these obstacle courses of death, okay, and it's entertainment for the masses to make them forget about their awful economic situation. The book is a little more different. Now it was an early book that King wrote when he was very young, and it's a very angry novel. It's about a father who cannot afford medication for his children, so he goes on this game show to put his life on the line to try to save his family. So that's a big difference. This '80s film really becomes more of an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle, and also other aspects of the mid late '80s this film has, because in the movie Schwarzenegger is playing a policeman, I suppose, who is ordered to fire on protesters who are protesting for food, and he refuses to do so. He is put in prison by the state, and the state, through its propaganda apparatus, makes it look like he in fact did fire on protesters, and we get a prison escape with some of his other people, cellmates, and that's sort of how the movie. That's like the first 10 minutes of the movie, so we get a whole different backstory. Eventually, he is captured by the state, and he's forced to go on this game show where they send convicts, once again as entertainment for the people. Yeah, Ben Richards is the name of the Schwarzenegger character. On this film, it's stylistically it takes a little bit from cyberpunk. There's a lot of Blade Runner in its design. There's also another indication of the late '80s is the bright colors in this film. A lot of neon, a lot of reds, a lot of yellows, but we also have this kind of darker bluish sheen. So yeah, just a lot of big, bold colors, big, bold fashions, big hair we get as we get towards the end of the decade. So that's definitely there. I think there's also a big WWF influence on this film. That which professional wrestling was very popular at this point in time. And one of the things the film does well is the spectacle of this game show, and how the people are, just how it creates a spectacle. The people are excited about it, and just this whole entertainment apparatus of the show. It seemed really inspired by wrestling. As for the movie itself, I think it's mediocre overall as a Schwarzenegger movie. Like, at this point, he's still doing a lot of one-liners, and which I think even by this point, that was starting to get old. There is an interesting supporting cast in this movie, but none of them are really used well. Like, Jesse Ventura is in here, who was in Predator. Yaphet Kotto plays one of the prison cellmates of Schwarzenegger. He isn't used well. Jim Brown, famous football player, movie star, also in the film, isn't used as well. When basically they are sent down this tube, and it's sort of like this video game logic where there's this cast of like a rogues gallery of people this game show has, and they have to fight them. And Schwarzenegger, there's various very like video game type figures they have to fight. Like, there's a kung fu master, and there's a guy who shoots electronics at them. So there's just all this kind of Yeah, things like that. But once we're there, once the actual game is going on, it gets a little bit repetitive. The fights, we can kind of see where it's going. The one part of this movie that really works is the casting of Richard Dawson, who was a real game show host. I remember him from the Family Feud, and he always seemed like kind of a sinister guy anyway. And if you watch some of the game shows that he hosted, but he's really good in the movie as this really the villainous host and producer of the show who's always talking about ratings. He doesn't really care about human life at all. Like he just only cares about the ratings. So that was one bright spot in the film. It's now this film was remade, I should say, last year in 2025 by Edgar Wright, and I did see that one, and that film is definitely more loyal to the Stephen King book. And there's a few issues with that film. Maybe I'll get to it if I give that one a full review someday. But it was an interesting version of the story, more like the book. But yeah, The Running Man from 1987. Not a lot to say about it. I mean, it's a fun movie if it's late at night or you're bored. The movie's perfectly fine to throw on. You'll be entertained, but not much beyond that. There's some interesting social commentary about the coming of reality TV and the satire of mass media. All that's done fairly well, but as an action movie, it's a bit on the mediocre side. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Running Man. If you have any thoughts on this film or the book or even the remake that came out in 2025, let me know. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.